we need to shift from that reactive approach to being proactive and serving our go-to-market teams the right content and the right references at the right time.
Welcome to the Beerbound Podcast. I'm your host, Sunny Manivanan. Joining me today is a very special guest, Chris Dalton, who is the Director of Customer Marketing at Clari. Chris brings more than a decade of experience building customer marketing and advocacy programs at some of the biggest B2B SaaS companies, including SurveyMonkey, Evanta, and now Clari. Chris, it's such an honor to have you on the Beerbound Podcast. Welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. You started your career in politics. What drew you to politics? And tell me more about those first early days and your first jobs, and how did you make your way into customer advocacy?
Yeah, I've always been interested in public policy, more so than the campaigning and electoral politics side of things, as a way of direct action. And through my early experiences in politics, I found that most people are overworked and underpaid and demoralized at the state of progress and how quickly they can achieve things. And so I decided my first job out of college was working for a tech startup where we didn't call it customer marketing at the time, but that's exactly what I was focused on, developing case studies and website content and social media content, all through the voice of the customer. That was the foundation of all of our marketing. Unfortunately, I can't say I woke up at the age of 6 saying I wanted to do SaaS customer marketing, but I love it because I think you're at the intersection of so many different functions in the business. You have a level of visibility into the business that not everyone has. Most other functions just more siloed. And the way I liked to describe the satisfaction I get from customer marketing is, especially in software companies, we're not working in a factory where we're physically turning out widgets every day. And we can hold that in our hands at the end of the day and point to that and say, I made this. At a software company, when we're at our computers all day, it's really hard to understand that tangible effect that you're having on your customers. And I think the closest thing you can get to that is hearing the impact that you've had on customers, hearing how it's saved them time, changed their lives, their day-to-day, made them better in their work, or even gotten them a promotion. Seeing those direct connections to the impact you're having on your customer is the closest thing that you have to that tangible result. And I find that very motivating. And I think it's exciting and motivating to the rest of your company to be able to share that progress out.
Totally. And your journey of having you were basically doing the job before anybody knew what to call it. And then the function sort of grew up around us. And, that's how we all ended up here. Certainly not when we were 6 saying we want to be in B2B software customer marketing.
Yeah.
That's cool. Let me ask you about your role now at Clari. So you are a one-man army. Clari is a fairly big company. Tell me a little bit about how big is the company today? How many employees total? How many of those are revenue team members, sales reps, and so on? And what does your remit cover?
Yeah, Clari is about 750 people, soon to grow further with our pending merger with SalesLoft, which is about the same size. We run pretty lean as a marketing team. There's about 30 of us. And yeah, to your point, I'm the only customer marketer dedicated to all of our advocacy programs, and then anything ad hoc that comes with all of that. Our sales team is about 60 people, and then our CSM team is about 40 people. So overall, I want to say that our go-to-market team is, maybe 150, 200 people, something like that.
Amazing. Tell me a little bit about what you find interesting about this role, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing, as you sort of go about your day-to-day business?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to, like I mentioned, get those tangible results from customers because I find that rewarding to share out. I also think that you sit at a pivotal cross-functional point between every area of the business, and I get a level of visibility into what new features are coming out because we want customer testimonials on those. So I touch product, and that comes with the customer advisory board too, hearing what's in the roadmap and what do customers think about that? I work daily with all of our sales team and all of our customer success managers, every area of marketing, because our CMO has reinforced the mandate that everything we do must have VOC in it. That's a requirement at the CMO level for every campaign that we do.
It's amazing.
So ABM campaigns, all of our demand gen, our content is heavily influenced by customer voice. It's exciting to get to do something a bit different every day. But the flip side of that, as a one-person team, is I'm also responsible for half a dozen programs,
Right.
none of which I can go as deep on as I would like. And so that's why I try and really focus on finding efficiencies, automation, using AI to help alleviate the manual work that comes with all of those programs, and try and have an autonomous customer marketing system as much as I can achieve with the tool sets that we have to run a lot of that in the background. For example, our peer review collection is almost entirely automated. I used to manually pull Excel spreadsheets of email lists and try and find happy customers in the mix. Now I have automated touch points that recognize when customers are happy and reach out for reviews without my day-to-day involvement. So finding efficiencies like that everywhere, I find exciting.
Amazing. I feel like the vibes I'm getting from even this beginning of the conversation is basically Tony Stark building Jarvis and just saying, okay, like what is going to help me become Iron Man? And you're clearly on that journey yourself. Let me ask you a little bit about the function of customer marketing itself. You now have a decade of experience at some of the best companies that are in the industry. What do you think is going to be majorly different? It's all against this backdrop of AI, but what do you think is going to be majorly different in the next 10 years compared to the last 10?
I think, and you've helped hone this concept for me, the idea of being proactive in all of our customer marketing efforts is something that customer marketers will need to adopt and integrate throughout their entire programs in order to adapt to the new realities of how we operate. And what I mean by that is, instead of being reactive and waiting for a rep to ask for that, case study from a law firm in Manitoba that uses that one specific feature, and you have to say, sorry, Chad sells a lot, we don't have that case study. Being reactive to speaker requests and not having a bank of advocates that you can touch upon. Being reactive to reference requests when maybe a reference actually wasn't needed for that deal. We need to shift from that reactive approach to being proactive and serving our go-to-market teams the right content and the right references at the right time, and using AI to determine what that is. And that's true for serving our customers the right onboarding content or the right community-based content, so that our customers are realizing value at the right moments and we can influence those retention and expansion efforts. And then internally ensuring that our content and all of the work we put into developing voice of the customer content is being fully utilized by our sales and marketing teams. And that's something that I harp on a lot, because content creation is one problem that a lot of people try and solve with customer marketing. It's an internal problem. But utilization, I think, is the secondary and bigger problem, because even if you are able to successfully write 100 case studies and you have this massive library on HighSpot, if your reps don't go to HighSpot, then it might as well not exist. And so I think the enablement and adoption piece is key to realizing the full value of your programs and being able to report that out to the business, showing the impact on close won deals. And I think the future of that is having a proactive system throughout your entire process, through all of your programs.
That makes a lot of sense. And even this example of, by the way, did Chad Sells a Lot actually ask you for a law firm in Manitoba that does XYZ?
I have had a request like that before. Yes.
That sounded too real to be made
It's
up,
always exactly what prospect they happen to be talking to. It's like, do we have an existing customer that is exactly like my prospect?
That's right. Basically, do we have their direct competitor as our customer? And if not, then you have failed at your mission.
Yeah.
No, but listen, what you're saying really obviously resonates with us here. And I think that's in many ways the future of work is understanding what is needed by the rest of the organization and delivering it before they might even know, right?
Hmm.
And in consumer, they've been doing this stuff forever. I would say to our detriment to a certain extent, but all these algorithmic feeds, you go anywhere and they already know what content, is going to keep you coming back.
Yeah.
But in B2B, I'm not trying to keep people, I'm not trying to keep your sales reps watching inside an app. I'm trying to get them more revenue and get them to win more deals.
Right.
And that's really what customer marketing's future, I think. And by the way, that's where the power and influence of this function is going to really increase over time. Is if we can go deliver that, then the rest of the organization has no choice but to just stand up and say, yeah, this is incredible. And let's go invest more in this function.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's that's cool. Let me ask you a little bit about voice of customer. You mentioned that your CMO has a mandate to put voice of customer in everything that you do. Do you have a sense for, is there further context behind that? I think that's a great idea, but where did it come from and what has that changed within your marketing team?
Yeah. I think there's a firm belief that VOC content performs best throughout our marketing. It's the most credible form of marketing. And we have the data to show that through the performance of our campaigns. Some of our customer content performs best relative to any other type of ad that we're running, LinkedIn content, pages on our website. It's highly important as deals get bigger and we move up market to enterprise deals where there's longer buying cycles, and often we're coming into completely, or rather very competitive deals where we have customers that can do a lot of research before they do that demo or talk to that rep. They need to hear from their peers to get validation in what the best solution is for them. And I think all of our executive team recognizes that. And it's important throughout our business to not only, in marketing, we're promoting the voice of the customer throughout all of our marketing assets, but our CEO and chief customer officer believes that we need to listen to our customers to inform how we're developing our products, how we're serving them as well. Retention is huge right now. So VOC marketing is really important. It's also, through PeerBound, we have our PeerBound Slack integration set up so that we're serving quotes into different channels every day so that CSMs see what are their customers talking about, where is their expansion potential, what are they saying about competitors, who are they praising. All of these different conversations that we're having with customers, but are not otherwise feasible to extract when you're having hundreds of calls at your company a day. Serving those insights, I think, are really important to living up to the values of being one with customers, as we call it at Clari.
Love it. By the way, I don't know if I actually told you the story, but one of your executives, I won't say who, but she's a former colleague of mine from an older company that we used to work at together. And when we released your customer story on LinkedIn for Peerbound and Clari, she happened to see it and she sent me a very nice LinkedIn note that said, I didn't realize that you were the founder of PeerBound. We get these moments every day and we love it. We love seeing this from our customers and hearing this from our customers. And this is somebody who reports to the CEO, but it's not a function that you would think of
Mm-hmm.
as, directly benefiting from customer proof. But she's listening to this and that really is how you create the customer centric culture. And you guys clearly have done a masterful job of that.
So yeah,
It's
it's
pretty
great
cool.
because with the visibility to everyone in Slack, there's only so much engagement that you see, but there's so many other people that are reading it and enjoying it
That's
that
right.
I'm just not aware of.
That's right. I won't go too far into this, but I had a couple of other customers say, we just like seeing some positive feedback because all we hear is the negative feedback and that's
Yeah.
all we're focused on all the time.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, it's motivating to know that we're coming into a customer base that actually does value what we do. And I
Mhm.
thought that was really interesting. And customer marketing obviously plays a huge role in amplifying that.
That's another thing you can add in about why I like customer marketing, because I'm not in the unfortunate support functions that are dealing with all of the technical issues and requests to improve something or fix something. I get to talk to the happy customers and the advocates and hear why
That's
they
right.
love us.
That's right. It's so true. We've been kind of talking about AI peripherally, but let me address it directly.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a threat to customer marketers Do you think it's, we've talked a little bit about proactive and how it enables you to do that, but does this mean that there are going to be fewer customer marketing jobs in the future? What's your take on this? How have you seen it play out in your day to day?
Yeah, short answer is I'm not worried about it. I'm an optimist when it comes to AI. That's a change for me. I used to be an AI skeptic, but I think the benefits to our work will be so much greater than the potential drawbacks. And the reason for that is not only creating, time efficiencies and productivity efficiencies here and there, but being able to unlock new areas of work that we otherwise weren't able to do. To use the call analysis example, I cannot listen to 500 calls a day. So that's unlocking a level of insight into what our customers are saying that I did not have access to before. It's not just saving me an hour a day, it's doing something I couldn't do. And I think that we will be able to apply that to our entire programs. So, content creation and our reference program, any revenue generating activities that marketing can touch will be improved by AI. Now, I think the function will be subject to the same challenges that every other knowledge worker job will be affected by, which is entry level jobs that do a lot of those manual tasks may go away or be reduced in number because companies will see that their team of one can suddenly do the work of three people and
Right.
they feel they don't need those extra two people. And that does concern me because I think that's the only way that you learn how to do a lot of those things. I don't know what the future of education and that initial career building will look like when you don't have access to building a reference program in a spreadsheet. But that's something that we'll have to figure out as an industry because everyone will deal with that same problem.
Totally. Yeah. On that last point of what's going to happen in all the entry level jobs, I worry a lot. I take it back even further. I know we both have young children, and I am thinking a lot every week about, okay, what do I expose them to and when,
Hmm.
if at all? And I think there's now increasing research about smartphones, and there's just pretty conclusive data about the
Yeah.
impact on everything teenagers and below. And so that seems pretty straightforward. Social media, same thing. There's a lot of data out there now, and there's clear consensus. AI, it's not clear yet because even with folks that we do hire people straight out of university, I believe in that. I've always believed in that, and it's very interesting to watch how they work and how they gain experience. We have a marketer that just graduated from university 4 months ago, and she loves using Claude, and she's also developing her own judgment at the same time.
Hmm.
But what I'm also seeing is that she's not making the same mistakes that we used to make.
Hmm.
But I remember being 23, and I remember the mistakes I used to make, and those mistakes are just not happening anymore. But I also remember I benefited a lot from having managers that would allow me to make those mistakes, and that's where experience comes from. And so it'll be very interesting to see in general what happens to the workplace and the ability to take risks and to develop judgment. And I think our generation has had to live those first 10 to 15 years of a career. And we now have experience because of those mistakes. But I'm not sure what the next, what's somebody who's going to be in our shoes in 10 years, what's that person going to look like? And how much judgment will they have and so on? Those are still open questions, at least in my mind.
Yeah, that's a great point. Some of the biggest learnings are from mistakes. Like I can tell you there's ways that I operate in my work every day because of mistakes I've made previously in my career. Like if I approached a customer approval in a certain way, a wrong way in the past and pissed them off, I now like have it built into my psyche that I follow a certain set of practices as a learning from that experience. And if you haven't had those experiences, I hope it doesn't lead to a fear of breaking things or
Totally.
experimenting because that's what leads to innovation and creativity.
Totally. I want to ask you about something. This is a little bit of inside baseball, but we obviously have the privilege of working with you as a customer. And one of the things that you're known for within our company is just being so hyper efficient and so fast at getting things done that, takes other folks more time. Heck, it even takes us more time. And we're just constantly asking ourselves, how is Chris able to move this quickly at a company that is almost 1,000 people now?
Yeah.
So this is not just something that you've been able to do in the last year. This is clearly like life lessons have been learned.
Hmm.
What's your secret?
I've been a longtime fan of like self-help workbooks, like Deep Work from Cal Newport, if you're familiar with the concept of deep work, and flow. And I've been a long time inbox zero. There you go. I think that book transformed my thinking around how to work. I did a seminar for it at Gardner when I worked there.
Oh, amazing.
Um, and yeah, inbox zero has been something that I've loved for a long time. I mean, I think the answer is I get anxiety if I have these reoccurring tasks just floating in my head. And I know I don't want to be awake at 2 a.m. thinking about that email that I have to send. And so the way that I alleviate my anxiety is just do the work.
Just by doing it.
It's not like a revolutionary answer. You just kind of have to eat the broccoli and do the work and get it done. And that just makes me feel better working through the day.
It's incredible. Yeah, I love that. Deep Work is a book that I picked up maybe, I want to say it's been almost a year now because I was in the middle of the startup grind. I'm still in the middle of the startup
Hmm.
grind, but feels a little easier now because I've changed some of my habits. But just all this around your smartphone and the distractions that happen, and we're in office, and so we're constantly talking to each other, and we now have rules about, okay, when can you talk to somebody, when are they in focus mode and things like that. But it is changing how I work as well. But anyway, it's good to know that there is no secret formula. It's just um
I'll give you
as with
one. I'll give you one
yeah
secret formula, and it's not that secret, but I think this is actually from Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, not Deep Work. But it's the concept of if it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it in the moment. And I see this in my personal life too. How many times do you get a text or you send a text message that a friend has almost certainly read, but they don't respond to it for 4 days because they think it's going to take a long time? I try to apply that to all of my work because there's been so many instances where I haven't done it in the moment. I procrastinate on it, and I probably spend hours of mental energy and fretting about getting that task done. And then when you actually go to do it, it's like, oh, that took me less than 5 minutes. Why did
yes.
I procrastinate on that and create so much mental anguish around it? Doing things in the moment, it makes your life easier.
By the way, this is something that I've been plagued with for a long time. It's just I'm that friend who
Hmm.
will sometimes procrastinate because the classic example is a dinner reservation and logistics. Logistics are my absolute kryptonite,
Yeah.
and I've gotten better over the years, but it is still my least favorite thing to think about, talk about, do anything about. And all of these things, you're absolutely right. Just take less than 2 minutes.
Hmm.
Just pick a restaurant, and then I have to trick my brain into saying, okay, you don't want to plan the dinner, but you would love to be at that dinner. That is something that you
Yeah.
will really enjoy. And you haven't seen this friend in such a long time. You always have a great conversation when you hang out together. And I really admire people who can just sort of get these things done. And I aspire to be just like you on this front for sure.
I talked to someone who, when I was complaining about being too type A and the problems that causes you, and he told me that type A people wish that they could fix some of those like anxieties about themselves, and type B people wish that they could be type A people
Yeah.
because they can't get
Yeah,
anything
that's
done.
right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I love that. I love that. Um, Let me turn back now to, just customer marketing and where you see the function going. One of the interesting observations that I've seen over this past couple of years is a desire from senior leadership to have this function be a Swiss Army knife where one person can do it all. And I've also seen resistance from the community that is used to focusing on, I'm going to do this effort, I'm going to do this effort, I'm focused on doing this, and that's my strength. Where do you land on all of this? What's your,
Yeah.
you are in many ways doing it all.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, you don't get to go as deep. Is that just the way of the future, or are we going to somehow see a return to specialization? And what does that even look like?
So I think there is a lot of value to having a Swiss Army knife if you are properly resourced and you have the team to support all of that. And I think the problem arises when all of your leadership recognizes the value of customer voice, throughout everything. They want it to be a core tenet. It's one of our key values at Clari. If your CMO wants VOC integrated throughout every marketing activity and your chief customer officer wants to focus on retention and how do we impact that from a marketing lens, you're going to need more resources than one person. And where the problem arises, I think, is when executives anecdotally see the value of all of that. They just know because it feels right in their gut. Yeah, when I see a great customer quote on the website, I think that's working. Or when a rep has the right reference at the right time and it helps close that deal, I think that's working. But then you don't have the hard numbers to back up the impact of those results. You don't have any of the metrics to report out if it's all just fuzzy. Yeah, we think
Yep.
case studies probably help. And so that's when you're under resourced if you can't prove the value. And that's, I think, key to expanding the function, both the remit of the function and also having a properly resourced team with the right headcount and the right tools to properly execute on that full vision. You need to be able to back up the program with not only a strong vision of what you can deliver on, but having the revenue impact metrics to show it.
That's right. Speaking of revenue, one of the things that I've observed is that you have a really strong relationship with your revenue teams, whether it's new business sales, account managers, customer success managers. What did it take for you to foster those relationships? Let's say we're taking you back to day one at Clari. How did you get to this point where they not only know who you are and what customer marketing is, but they actually value it and they know how you're adding value to them? How did you get there?
A lot of pestering and pinging and just nags on Slack. No, I think a natural place for a customer marketer to sit in their function is to rely on account teams a lot, or relying on them for introducing you to the right customers, for gathering sentiment about customers, understanding adoption, understanding product usage, because that helps inform you on who the right advocates are for all of your activities. And they are the ones with the best relationships and can connect you to the right people. I think we are solving some of that manual work with both rich data collection and then AI analysis of all of that data. But that's been a key factor in developing relationships with the account teams is I talk to them every single day. I know all of them. But it's not just the get from me asking them for things. They've seen the value of what I can give to them. And I tell them, I reinforce this with all of my sales training sessions. I view myself first and foremost as a function that serves the needs of sales to ensure that you are closing deals faster, closing deals bigger, and whatever I can do to make you more effective in your jobs, I want to know what that is and what I can do to support that. And so I think if they understand that and take that to heart, and you can deliver references that they can use that help win them deals, that you are providing the right content to them that answer their prospects' concerns and needs, and that you're staying close to them not only through communication, but through program maturation and efficiencies and new ways of delivering what they need faster, better, easier for them, making their lives easier, then you have a virtuous cycle in which they see the value of what you're doing and they're willing to give back in the form of providing me leads on new customers that might have a great story to share, or there's a particular champion that we could incorporate into some of our programs.
That's amazing. I want to ask you a couple of more questions here. One is around this idea of visibility, not just with the revenue team, which you've covered so nicely here, but also with senior leadership. And you already in this episode talked about the CMO, the CEO, and the chief customer officer, which means you're closely tuning into what they're talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of customer marketers I find struggle with this, if tying their sort of day-to-day activities and effort to what the company actually needs and what senior leadership cares about. How do you do it?
I think it's critical that everything that you do needs to tie back to the larger company goals, and you need to be able to document and show that connection. So if retention is the big theme for 2025, you need to ensure that you're thinking about that whenever you're crafting a story that can match that narrative or support the work that our customer success and sales teams are doing to improve on that. That you are tied into what customers are talking about in terms of product feedback and roadmap feedback. There's high visibility within the customer advisory board there because our executives lead all of those sessions. I think it might sound a bit simplistic, but you just need to ensure that the work that you're doing is tied to what the CEO says on the all hands meeting is important to the company, not chase after quantity based, let's just create 5 more case studies this quarter and hope they're
Right.
useful. Um, you need to ensure that the work you're doing is touching those OKRs.
Totally. Love that. Last sort of serious question, which is, what do you think that many customer marketers get wrong or haven't quite nailed? And what advice would you have for them on this front?
What I think we can fall into the trap of is thinking that tools will solve all of our problems. And I think that tools are a critical part of an effective customer marketing strategy. You need to have the functionality in place to run all of your operations, to collect customer sentiment and have that data around champions and who your advocates are. You need all of that data, and then you need to now leverage AI to analyze and execute on the results of that data. But something I find when speaking with other customer marketers about the evergreen challenges that they have around customer marketing, it tends to be behavior. It tends to be psychology. And making a slight tweak to how you have a sales rep request a reference is not going to be the silver bullet to increasing the impact of your reference program. And it's why I focus so heavily on enablement and adoption and getting to know your sales team. You're really trying to change psychology and change their sentiment about the value that they get out of the programs that you're running. And that's not anything that a tool can solve.
It's a great point. It's funny that you mentioned that because so much of building a great product and software or anything else is really about what is my theory of behavior change here? And is it a sound theory, or am I just pretending that something is going to work because I want it to work?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you've seen this. Clari has clearly crossed the chasm and has, scaled to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and great success. But so many companies don't make it beyond because what looks good in a demo or shows really well actually will not lead to the correct behavior. And then you'll be left wondering 6 months later why there's no adoption.
Yeah.
When really it comes back to a psychology question of, okay, what is that person thinking? What would motivate them to actually go do something or to click on a button? And I'm not saying that we've done a great job or anything like that at Peerbound, but I'm always thinking about this. Every time I review a design, what is going to cause friction with this design? And you and I have had conversations about
Mm-hmm.
this as well. I'm like, okay, we could do that, but here's what I think that will happen. And even this question of how many emails can a sales rep digest from a product in a given week?
Yeah.
And those are tough, thorny questions because that have real implications for whether our product is successful or not. But then you'll see these software demos that say, oh yeah, here's all this stuff is going to work. And then there's 14 clicks to get to
Mm-hmm.
the action that you actually want to take. And you're like, this is never going to happen.
Right.
And developing that fine sense for that, takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. You might be left wondering, why didn't I choose to make the button green instead of blue? That would have fixed it. But instead, ask yourself, does my user need to even click on that button, and what are they going to get from clicking on that?
Totally. Totally true. Chris, I really love this conversation. Any last thoughts for our listeners before we say goodbye?
The summary that I would want listeners to take away is The key to the future of being successful in customer marketing is not mastering a reactive approach, because maybe you can get really good at generating one more case study or finding one more speaker for that event or getting, a reference really quickly for your sales reps. And those are all meaningful marginal improvements in your program. But I think the real key to being successful in the future of being a player in customer marketing is delivering all of those needs before your teams even know that they need it.
Hmm.
Delivering the right content to them based on what prospects said right after they spoke to their prospect, so that there's no reason for them not to use that content in every single prospect interaction. To deliver the right reference suggestion to them as soon as they're at a certain stage in the deal, based on looking at every conversation they've had with that prospect so far and saying, here are the best advocates to address your prospect's concerns. Delivering the right educational content during onboarding and delivering the right review requests when a customer is exceptionally happy. All of these things will improve the experience that your customers have, and they'll lead to increased upsell opportunities, retention opportunities, expansion opportunities, and you'll see the uptake of all of the VOC content that you create to its highest potential within your organization. And then being able to document that and show the value of all of the revenue impact you've had. I think the concept of a proactive, autonomous customer marketing system, that's the future, and that's the vision that I'm trying to realize here.
Amazing. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I enjoyed every moment of this conversation. It was great to get an inside look at how you scale customer marketing at Clari, and also into the productivity habits that make you the effective leader that you are. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.